Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Dr. Kirsten Kung. I'm the coordinator of the UC Scholars Program, which is one of the programs we'll be talking about today. And I will turn it over to Tyler Rogers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're glad that you're joining us. My name is Tyler Rogers, and I also work in the Office of Academic Enrichment Programs as the coordinator of the Charles Program. And I will now turn it over to Dr. Sophia Tsai.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sophia Tsai. I also work in academic enrichment programs as the research scholarships coordinator. I oversee the Genentech Scholars and the URS programs. And next, Maribel.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. My name is Maribel, and I'm one of the assistant coordinators for the Colors of the Brain Kavli Institute for Brain and Mind Fellowship.
So we wanted to let you all know that we will have an extended period at the end of this presentation to address questions. So if a question occurs to you during this presentation, make a note to yourself and you can ask it during the Q&A portion. You can also send questions to me, Sophia Tsai. You'll see in my name, send questions here if you have additional questions that you would like us to address during the Q&A portion. And then I will hand it off to my colleague, Dr. Kirsten Kung.
Thanks, Sophia. So we wanted to start by talking a little bit about summer research opportunities in general. One of the questions that people often have is whether or not there are summer research opportunities that are a good fit for them. So based on my major or my interests or things along those lines. And we want to start kind of spoiler alert. Yes, there are summer research opportunities that are a good fit for you, no matter who you are or what your interests are. We have opportunities that are available for all fields of research. We also have opportunities available for all different levels of previous research experience. So it's not the case that, oh, you have to have done research before in order to apply and successfully be admitted to a summer research program. We have some programs that are specifically designed for students who perhaps haven't had the opportunity to do research before. And then we have other programs that are a perfect fit for students who are a little bit farther along on that journey. We also have programs that are available for all different class standings. So whether you're a first year or a senior, we do have programs that would be appropriate for you. We also have programs that are open to students of all different citizenship statuses. And finally, we have programs that are appropriate regardless of what your future career and education goals are. And a lot of times we have students ask, well, I'm not planning to go to graduate school. I don't think that my career is going to be a research-oriented career. I don't think that it would really make sense for me to do a summer research program. And in fact, it makes sense even if you're not planning to go to graduate school or you're not planning to go into a research-oriented field. We've found that people in all different industries and all different employment settings really value the experience that students can get by doing research and by being involved in the types of responsibilities and tasks that are inherent in having an intense research experience like would take place during the summer. Okay, so what is a summer research program like? One of the primary components of the program is that you do faculty mentored research. This means that you'll be working with a faculty mentor on a research project. You'll get advice and input from this faculty mentor. You'll also likely work with other people in the research group. So a lot of your training may come from, say, a postdoc or an advanced graduate student or somebody else in the research group. But we do want to ensure that you do have good interactions with the faculty mentor because those people can provide you with so much experience and such great mentorship. And it's really part of the main activity that you'll be doing during the summer research program. We also have a number of professional development activities. So these are things that are outside of doing the research itself, but that really help you grow and develop as a researcher. So we have seminars and workshops and things like ethics, research communication, different career paths, how to go about applying to graduate school if that's what you're interested in, and more. Some of the programs also offer a GRE preparation course. The GRE is a standardized test that many graduate programs require their students to take. And so having the opportunity to take a GRE prep course is tremendously valuable. It really helps you feel confident and enhances the scores that you receive on the GRE. So again, some of the programs do offer a GRE prep course And for many of the programs, they cover the cost of that course. So in other words, the participants don't pay for the course. We also offer library training and other things, again, all designed to help you on your journey to becoming a solid researcher. Other components of the summer research program include things like networking opportunities. It's really important to have the chance to meet with other people, both people who are doing research that's related to yours and that might be of interest to you, and people who are doing research in different fields, but who are going through some of the same things that you are as they kind of learn what research is about and develop their interests and their passions. So we try to make sure that there are lots of opportunities for you to interact with other students who are doing research, as well as postdocs and graduate students and faculty people, other than just those in your own research group. We also have social events and community building. One of the things that we think is very important about our summer research program is that it gives the students the opportunity to get a sense of community and to get to know one another so that they have other people to turn to and to ask questions and to share their excitement about the research that they're doing. So the community aspect of the summer research program is very important. And then finally, towards the end of the summer, we have a summer research conference. This is a conference that has between 300 and 400 students presenting their research. It's students from our summer research program, and then it's also students who are doing research through other research programs throughout UC San Diego and throughout the San Diego region itself, and even students from across the country. So it's really, although it takes place at UC San Diego, it's really something that is becoming a national conference, and we have students from all over. Now, let me just say a quick word in terms of the remote aspect of things. This past summer, our summer research program was largely remote. All of the professional development activities were remote. The summer research conference was remote. And the vast majority of the students who conducted research did so remotely. We did have some students who worked with their faculty members, and the faculty members were able to get the permission needed from UC San Diego in order to allow students on campus. So there were some students who did have an on-campus experience, but the vast majority of them did not. For this coming summer, we don't yet know what it will hold. Obviously, our biggest concern is the safety of our students and of the people working with our students. And we need to work closely with all of the different organizations that are determining what's appropriate. So there are various health agencies involved and the Office of Research Affairs at UC San Diego. So again, right now, we don't really know what the summer will hold, whether it'll be a remote experience, an in-person experience, or a hybrid experience. But we are confident that regardless of what it looks like, we will be able to have students have meaningful research experiences. And again, we recognize that doing research remotely might not be what you had planned on or anticipated, but this past summer it was very successful, and we really were able to have students and their faculty mentors come up with a number of creative ways to get a very important and meaningful experience, even if it was a virtual one. And then finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about the benefits of a summer research program. Being in a summer research program allows you to delve into a topic in depth. Typically during the academic year, if you're trying to do research, you're also balancing classes and other commitments. Whereas during a summer research program, you're really able to focus just on the research itself and on the other components of the program. So this lets you advance your knowledge in a way that it's difficult to do at other times. You can focus on the research without other competing pressures. The programs really are a full-time commitment, so outside classes and work are not allowed because we really want you to be focusing on the research itself and then on the other professional development activities. In order to help you do this, you receive stipend support. This essentially means that you're paid while you're in the program. And we recognize that for many students, financial concerns are real. So we don't want it to be something where normally you need to have a job in the summer, and because of that, you wouldn't be able to participate in the summer research program. We provide you with a stipend so that you can focus solely on the research program itself. Many of the programs offer housing support, so they either offer on-campus housing or a housing allocation that can be used towards off-campus housing. And some of the programs offer course credit, so you can receive 199 credit while you're in the program for the research that you're doing.
All right, so I'll be moving on to discuss the different summer research program opportunities through the academic enrichment programs. Summer research program is an umbrella program that describes multiple research programs, and so it encompasses all of the programs here as well as possibly a couple others that are not listed. First off, I'll start with the UC Scholars and the Genentech Scholars programs. These are actually two different programs that are run as sister programs. UC Scholars is a program that's open to all students on campus and all different majors. You do need junior standing, but this program is aiming to get students from all different areas together as one group. Genentech Scholars, on the other hand, is supported by the Genentech Foundation and is looking to support students that are in the life sciences and technology, biotechnology areas specifically. The TRAILS program, Trident Research and Experiential Learning Scholars program, is aiming to get students that are new to research and or have had challenges in terms of getting involved in research. And so this program is both an academic year program as well as a summer program. We also have the undergraduate research scholarships, URS. This scholarship program is actually an umbrella program under the summer research program. And it's actually, I believe, 14 different scholarships, which are supported by donors. And the donors want to have students being able to do undergraduate research as part of this program. There's a program called Colors of the Brain, Kavli Institute for Brain and Mind, and I'd like to pass it over to my colleague Maribel to see if she can talk more about that.
So this summer research program is very new, and this is the first year that we're going to have it. So it's funded primarily by the Kavli Institute for Brain and Mind, and the goal of this summer research program is to encourage undergraduates from disadvantaged backgrounds, specifically whether that be racial or ethnic minorities or people with disabilities that are interested in neuroscience research. And what this means is that you don't have to be majoring in neuroscience, but you just need to have an interest in doing neuroscience research. You could have a background in engineering or biology or cognitive science or psychology, but as long as you end up joining a neuroscience lab, this program would be applicable to you.
Great. We also have a couple other programs that I'm not going to take too much time to get into. The Converge Summer Incubator Program is aimed for students that are interested in entrepreneurship. The application is not yet open, but should be closing in April. And then there is another program called the McNair Scholars Program that is already going on right now. It's actually a winter, spring, and summer program for 9 months. If you are interested in this program, you'll want to apply in fall quarter, and usually it does have a deadline of mid to late October. The McNair Scholars Program is funded by the Department of Education and is interested in supporting students that want to go to PhD that are underrepresented and or low income and first generation. Next slide, please. So looking a little bit more about each individual program, we have a chart here that tells you a little bit about the different fields, the length of the program, citizenship, the minimum GPA required, as well as what level of academic study you should be at. For the UC Scholars Program, it is open to students from all different fields. It is 8 weeks long and open to students of any citizenship status, including international students and undocumented students. It has a minimum GPA of 2.8, and you are required to have junior standing or above, which means 90 units minimum. That can include transfer units or AP units as well. For the Genentech Scholars Program, this is a focus on life sciences fields, and this is a 10-week program. It's open to students from any citizenship status, basically the same idea as UC Scholars, has also a 2.8 GPA minimum and junior standing and above as well. The TRAILS program is open to all fields on campus. It has a length of 10 weeks and is open to students of any citizenship status. There is a minimum GPA of 2.5, and it includes academic years, all of them, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So no matter what year you are, you can participate in the TRAILS program. The URS program does cover all fields. It is actually an umbrella of many different scholarships, and so each scholarship will have a different targeted audience, and you need to check whether you are eligible for each individual scholarship that you would like to apply to. It is a 10-week program. Applicants must be U.S. citizens, permanent residents, or eligible under the AB 540 California Dream Act. Some of the scholarships do have a minimum GPA and others do not. And so check the eligibility to see if there's any specific requirements for this. Students from all different years, freshman through senior, can apply to this. And you do need to be enrolled as an undergraduate the following school year. So if you wanted to work as a URS student this summer, you need to be coming back as an undergraduate in fall of 2021. You can also not be in the middle of your BS-MS program or BA-MA program during this award period. And then Maribel, if you don't mind talking about Colors of the Brain.
Yeah, so for the Colors of the Brain, it's open to anyone that wants to do neuroscience research. So again, that doesn't have to be your major, but just the lab has to be a neuroscience lab. It's also a 10-week summer program, and it's open to students of any citizenship status. We do have a minimum GPA requirement of 2.5, and you must be a rising sophomore, junior, or senior. So for this one, freshmen are not eligible to apply. And then something that's a little bit different is that you must have membership in at least one of the following groups, and that is either a racial or ethnic groups underrepresented in biomedical sciences, individuals with disabilities, or individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I know sometimes students don't know exactly if they fit into this. So if you go to the application, we actually have a link to the NIH guidelines that determine whether you would qualify for this fellowship. And they provide a lot of details on that.
And so I'm sure many of you are wondering, what is the timeline for all of these different applications? For the summer research programs, we have a little chart here to describe when applications are opening, closing, as well as whether they require letters of recommendation, if you need a mentor when you're applying, and then if you need a project or a proposal needed to apply. So for the UC Scholars and Genentech Scholars, there is one application. It is combined. And so if you go to the one application, you can apply to either just the UC Scholars program, just the Genentech Scholars program, or both of them, and you can indicate that in your application. The application has already opened and it will be closing on February 1st, so that's very soon. So keep that in mind, that's the soonest one that we're describing today. There is a letter of recommendation that is required. It does not have to be from the person that you are working with, but it should be someone that can talk about your ability to be a research scientist for the summer. You do not need a mentor when you are applying. You can actually be selected for the program, and one of the coordinators will work with you to find a mentor if you don't have one already. And you do not need a project proposal to apply for this program either. For the TRAILS program, the application will be opening in mid-March and closing in late April. It will require a brief statement from your faculty mentor, but it does not require an actual letter of recommendation. They just need to fill out a support form in the application portal. You will need a mentor when you are applying, and you will need a brief project description to apply as well. For the URS program, it is also already open. The deadline will be February 15th. There is a letter of recommendation required, and it should be from the person you plan on working with, the mentor, the faculty mentor that you're planning to work with for the URS program. So you will need a mentor to apply. And when you do apply, you will also need a project proposal where you describe what you'll be doing for the summer for 3 months. And then Maribel, can you talk about Colors of the Brain?
So for Colors of the Brain, the application is open already, and the deadline is March 16th. You don't need a letter of recommendation, and Colors of the Brain will actually place you in a lab with mentors that have volunteered to have one of the fellows in their lab over the summer. So we will help you find a lab if you are accepted. And then you don't need a proposal, but you do need to include a research interest statement stating what type of research you're interested in and what type of questions you would like to answer. This is primarily to let us know if one of the faculty mentors would be a good match for you.
There are other summer research opportunities at UC San Diego. These are a couple other ones that you can consider. Please also note there are other ones that are not listed on this list here, and you can certainly search those out online. One of the programs that we would like to highlight is the UC LEADS program, which is Leadership Excellence Through Advanced Degrees. The application is due February 12th, and this program allows for you to do research one summer here at UC San Diego, and the following summer at another UC. So it's actually a 2-year commitment. And so if you're interested in that, certainly consider applying before February 12th. There's also the UC San Diego SURF programs. There's actually 3 of those, and they're all different and distinct, so make sure you apply to the correct one. There's one that's supported by the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, SIO, and that one has not yet opened, but should be open pretty soon, and will be due in March. There is a medical scientist training program offered through the School of Medicine for students that are interested in MD, PhD programs. It is open now and due January 31st. There is also a SURF program in pharmacology, also offered through the School of Medicine, open now and due February 10th.
So in thinking about next steps, right, we've shared a lot about specific programs, information, deadlines. Zooming out a little bit, you might be thinking about, okay, so what are the next steps to put into place? So some of you might already be at the stage where you have begun applying for some of these opportunities, or some of you might be a little bit earlier in the process and still weighing your options and considering. So you will definitely want to think about identifying all of these programs and scholarships for which you're eligible. We always encourage students to apply for any opportunity for which they are eligible. So you don't need at the stage of the application process to decide, oh, I only am going to apply to this one program or something along those lines. Really feel free and encouraged to apply for as many for which you're eligible. And to that end, not putting all your eggs in one basket and, just thinking very broadly about the different possibilities that we offer. You also want to plan proactively and early, just thinking about the deadlines, perhaps even working backwards in your calendar, thinking about when an application is due, and then sort of backwards planning what different steps should I complete in terms of the application components, reaching out to faculty for letters of recommendation or brief statements of support, which might be required for some of these opportunities. So just really making good use of your time, making use of all the resources, certainly through our office, but also more broadly across campus. So especially thinking about the Writing Hub through the Teaching and Learning Commons, which offers both online synchronous and asynchronous appointments to provide you with really helpful feedback and guidance at every stage of the application writing process. So knowing that these resources are available and that we really encourage you to make use of them in the application process. So thinking also about working with a faculty mentor, identifying a faculty mentor, which is a really key component of the process. I'm going to turn it back over to Maribel now to talk a little bit more about the process of identifying a potential mentor for those of you who might still be in the middle of that search, and then also about how to reach out. So I'll turn it over to you, Maribel.
Yeah, so finding a mentor can sometimes feel very intimidating as an undergraduate student. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. So you can reach out to professors that you have taken courses with, and you can also look through course catalogs and department websites for faculty members who teach courses that you might be taking in the future. And you can also utilize some online resources such as the Research Experience and Applied Learning Portal and or Handshake to search for faculty members working in fields related to your interest. And so once you have someone that kind of matches with your interest, the big question is, how do you actually reach out to them? And so this usually ends up being what's called cold emailing, where you find someone you're interested in and you just have to send an email to them. This usually works by you formally introducing yourself, including your name, what year you're in, what you're majoring in, and then explaining your research interest in relation to their work. So why have you chosen to email them specifically, and then request whether they would be willing to further discuss the possibility of serving as a mentor. And one thing that I want to point out is that they might not always reply to you, and that this doesn't necessarily mean that they're not interested, but faculty are very busy. They get a lot of emails all the time. So sometimes sending a quick reminder can also be beneficial. But again, going back to the idea of not putting all your eggs in one basket, it's okay to email a couple of faculty, wait to see if they reply. If no one replies, then email another set of faculty until you kind of can make a connection with someone and someone can set up a time to meet with you to discuss your interests and whether that's a good match for their lab. So in terms of the email, how do you send an email to a faculty member? So the best thing to do is always to keep it pretty brief. They're very busy, and because most of the time they might not know you. You don't want to put a very long essay into the email. So it should be professional also. So you can put something like Dear Professor or Doctor, and then their name. And then what you want to include again is who you are, your name, your year, your major. And if you've had research experience in the past, you can also put what skills you already have and if they're applicable for their type of research. And then why are you emailing them? Mention that you're applying to research programs. Faculty love to have students that take initiative and are already looking to do this on their own. So I think saying that you're applying to something will make faculty even more excited to meet with you. And then again, something that's very important is what about their work specifically interests you? And you don't have to be extremely detailed, but you just want them to know that you have at least looked at their website or have some general idea of what they do. And they don't just want to feel like you're just sending the same email to everybody. And then kind of finish it off with a concrete request. Could you please let me know if you're available to meet either this week or whenever you're available? When students reach out to me, I like when students offer me a couple of times, so there's not as much back and forth. So if you have a couple of times that you would like to do this, offer them a couple of slots. So that's one less thing they have to do. And then obviously sign off professionally and thank them for their time for reading the email.
Thanks, Maribel. I think that's a great point about you want to make sure that it's as easy as possible for that faculty member to reply to your email. So just think about your audience and think about, in some ways the best reply can be a brief reply where they're, yes, I'm so excited to hear from you, looking forward to meeting you. So I just want to echo that excellent advice. So thinking about, again, in terms of assembling a successful application, of course, you want to make sure that you're double checking your eligibility for any scholarship for which you're applying. You want to, of course, understand the goals of the programs for which you're applying. Thinking about alignment and fit, right? So thinking about many of our programs require, some of them might require a research statement or proposal, but some of them also require a personal statement for you to talk about your own journey, who you are, why you're interested in a particular program. And that's where thinking about this fit, why am I a good person to be a member of this intellectual community of a certain program? So spending some time reflecting on that and articulating that in your essays is really important. To that point as well, making sure that you're in your personal statements expressing your passion clearly, that you're getting feedback along the way. So again, reiterating, certainly using resources like the Writing Hub. You might also already have a mentor who's really hands-on and helpful and would be willing to provide you with some concrete feedback on application essays. You might have another person who you collaborate with, or a writing partner or somebody, just thinking about getting some feedback and thinking about the application as a process rather than something that, a strong application usually cannot be written at the very last moment. So just again, planning ahead and thinking proactively about the timelines here. To that point, also thinking about this question of who might write you a letter of recommendation if it's required, making sure to maintain professional, consistent, and clear contact with those people. So, as Maribel mentioned, again, don't hesitate if maybe, you emailed somebody a few weeks ago and the deadline is fast approaching. It's perfectly fine to send a gentle and professional reminder email, again, keeping it brief, just reminding them of the deadline, thanking them for their time, and asking if they would like any additional information leading up to that deadline. So I think for the most part, people very much appreciate those sorts of gentle reminders. So don't hesitate to make that part of your plan as well. And again, in terms of mentor resources, we've mentioned it very briefly here. We also have many more resources on our website, which is aep.ucsd.edu. You'll see that in just a moment on some of our next slides. But just keeping in mind that we have previously recorded sessions devoted to the process of finding a mentor, other written guides on our website that lay out this process of reaching out to mentors, and all other kinds of resources that will be helpful to you as you're assembling your applications and thinking about your research plans ahead. So definitely we like to encourage people to, after attending one of these informational sessions, really devoting a few minutes, if not, maybe closer to an hour, of spending some time on our website, learning about the resources and being aware of what's out there, And then, we're always happy to connect with students one-on-one via email and also via our virtual office hours if you have additional questions or would like additional support in that process. So looking ahead to that, to staying connected with our office, we have a wonderful newsletter that goes out every week. It's a great way to keep informed about our opportunities and resources. So again, please go to our homepage, aep.ucsd.edu, to subscribe for that newsletter. And we'll also, of course, circulate announcements and other opportunities via our website and social media accounts. So we're going to transition now into the Q&A section of our presentation. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Tsai.
Thanks, Tyler. So one of the questions that we've gotten from quite a few students is, how do I access the application portal for these summer research opportunities? And I wanted to actually show you through screen sharing what that looks like. Excuse me just a sec. All right. So for many people, they're wondering just how do I even get in and sign into the portal? The first thing you'll want to do is click on the sign in button in the upper right-hand corner. Some people don't see it and notice it, so don't worry if that's your situation. You'll want to click on here and sign in with your single sign-on. For students, you will want to use your SSO. And you'll have to go through the Duo authentication. Once you have been authenticated, it should drop you into the application portal. And I need to take one sec. This doesn't look exactly like it does for you just yet. So the first thing you'll see is actually the general application. I've already filled this out, so it jumps me a little bit ahead. But if you are signing in for the first time, you will see these few questions for the general application. Once you fill that out, you will move on to the undergraduate application, if that's what you selected at the very beginning. Well, let me skip back and show you that real quick. So the general application is right here. You do select whether you're an undergraduate student, a graduate student, or a prospective mentor. If you do select an undergraduate student, once you complete this portion, it will transition you to the undergraduate student questions. There's a few things that you'll need to fill out here. This is basic demographic information, like where is your permanent address? What is your citizenship status? What is your ethnicity, if you want to reveal that? There's a residency questions, PID, that sort of thing. And so really all you're doing is filling out all these different questions, whether you're a transfer student, first year student, as a freshman, what division you're in, what major you have. So all of these different types of questions you'll be answering here. And once you finish these questions, you can complete your application or save it. Don't forget to upload an official transcript. And if you started this before winter quarter began, if you're applying again in winter quarter, we do recommend that you update that transcript. So that's a quick note for anybody that has already begun their application. And then you'll be sent over to the portal where it describes all of the different opportunities that you will be eligible based on that general application or undergraduate application that you filled out. And so this is where you go to the actual individual applications, and we recommend that you kind of look and see which ones make the most sense for you. They list eligibility under each individual one. So if you wanted to check it out, make sure that you are eligible, you'll want to click on that, read through eligibility, and then decide if you want to apply or not. And you can also read through the questions that are involved with that particular application. So for instance, if you wanted to apply for the colors of the brain, you can apply right here. And once you get into the application, you can fill out the different questions. There's this first question about which type of student are you? Do you have any prior research experience? And that sort of thing. And so you'll be able to fill out each of these individual questions as you go through. And then once you're completely ready, you can finish and submit. If you're not completely finished with the application, you can always save and keep editing. Going back to the list of opportunities, you can look at the recommended opportunities. And for some of the other scholarships, they do require letters of recommendation. And so what we do recommend is first thing you go in and you enter your faculty mentor's name and email address. As soon as you click on this to add a new reference, you'll be able to put in their name and their email. And so I'll put in Dr. Kirsten Kang. As soon as I fill this out and start saving this, let's say she's part of academic internship program. If I click on save and keep editing, she will get an email right away to be requested to fill out a letter of recommendation for me for this Liddell Summer Research Scholarship for URS. So it's as soon as you click on save and keep editing, you don't need to finish your entire application before you get to the submitting a request to your faculty sponsor. And that's specifically for the URS program. For UC Scholars, it does not need to be the faculty that you're working with, but whoever you want to have as your letter of recommendation reference will be entered in the very same way. And I'm going to stop sharing right now. We can get back to the Q&A. Oh,
Dr. Tsai, could I just say a couple of things? Just to let you all know, the very first screen where she started sharing and showing you what the different possibilities were, you get to that by going to the website for any of the different opportunities. So if you go, for example, to the UC Scholar website, there'll be a button where it says apply here, and that will take you to that website that she then showed, where you have to click in the upper right hand corner to sign in. The other thing is I just received the email indicating that Dr. Tsai had requested a letter of reference from me. So it happens that quickly. The reason I want to point this out is make sure that you have spoken to your mentor or your letter writer before you put their information in, because you don't want to say, oh, Dr. Jones is going to write a letter for me if you haven't spoken with Dr. Jones, because then Dr. Jones will get an email. And it's awkward if you haven't already had that conversation to know that, oh yes, Dr. Jones is very supportive and has agreed to write the letter. So again, you do want to enter that information as quickly as possible so that your letter writer will be able to access the system and write the letter and submit it quickly. But you don't want to enter any of that information until you've had an explicit conversation and found out that the person has agreed to write a letter for you or has agreed to be your mentor, depending on the program. Again, some programs require letters of recommendation, some require a mentor with whom you're going to work. So whatever the situation is, just make sure that you've talked with the person first.
Very good recommendations. I actually do have a first question that I'll kick over to Dr. Kang. Besides the program length, what are the differences between the UC Scholars and Genentech Scholars programs?
Great question. So yeah, the program length is one of the main differences. UC Scholars is 8 weeks, Genentech is 10 weeks, but they are sister programs. So we run them together. I'm the coordinator for UC Scholars and Dr. Tsai is the coordinator for Genentech, and we work very closely together. So for example, we have weekly meetings, and those are with both the UC Scholars and the Genentech students. The requirements in terms of attendance at the professional development activities are the same. Both programs require that you write a paper and present at the conference. So many, many elements are the same. The length is different. And because the length is different, the stipend is different. So proportionally, it's the same. If you break it up week by week, the amount of stipend that you get is equal. But for the 10-week program, the total that you get is different from what you would get for the 8-week program. And then the other difference really is that the Genentech Scholars Program is focused on students who are interested in life sciences and biotechnology, whereas UC Scholars is open to students in all different fields. So we do typically have students in life sciences, but we also have students in arts and humanities and social sciences and all of the fields available at UC San Diego.
Thank you for that. I see Isaac has a question and has raised his hand. If you don't mind to unmute and ask your question, Isaac.
Hello there. My question was about the letter of recommendation. And basically, I applied to the Genentech summer program, and my letter of recommendation person gave me a letter, but one of the speakers said that it's smart to apply to multiple research opportunities over the summer. And now that I want to use this same person, are they going to get an email again if I put them as a reference?
Yes, actually, for each opportunity that you apply to, they will have a different request. For URS, if you want to reuse the same letter, You can select a letter that's already been entered or a person who you've already selected for another URS program. So that can be reused in the same way. But they will get a separate request for each opportunity that you do request.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
And also be
I got
aware
a question.
that
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, letter writers are used to students applying to multiple opportunities. So ideally, you want to let them know early on that you anticipate applying to multiple opportunities, but don't feel uncomfortable that, oh, I already asked this person for one letter and now I'm going to ask him or her for another letter. Typically what happens is a letter writer will write a letter that kind of has the basic information and talks about your fit for a specific program. And then if you are applying to a different opportunity, they'll use the same letter, but will adjust it so that it's addressing the issues related to the next opportunity to which you apply. So don't hesitate to let letter writers know that you might be applying to multiple opportunities, because they're used to that, and it's not unusual for students to ask the same letter writer to write letters for multiple opportunities.
Right, thank you for bringing that up. That's what I was hesitant about, but now that clears it up. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. All right, I have a question also in the chat. How do the stipends affect financial aid? Does anybody want to take that? Tyler, are you comfortable with that question?
Sure. So in general, because this is during the summer and because we require that students not be enrolled in coursework during the summer beyond their commitments to the summer research program, generally it does not have an impact on financial aid. So it would be dispersed to your account, and generally students will receive their stipends over several payments across the course of the summer. So because we're asking that students not be enrolled in other courses, generally there's not a conflict there.
Fantastic. I have another question. How would one approach a potential recommendation letter writer? Also, do they have to be the same department as you?
I'll take that. And actually, that's an excellent question. And we are in the process right now of working on some resources to provide to students for those types of questions, because we recognize that asking for letters of recommendation can be a little bit uncomfortable, and you just don't necessarily know how to do it. So we're putting together both a podcast and then a document that we'll have on our website. But that probably won't be up before the deadline for UC Scholars. It should be up in time for you to take a look at it before some of the later deadlines. But basically, think about who you would want to have as a letter writer. You want somebody who knows you well and who would be able to talk in some detail about your strengths. So ideally, it would be somebody who knows you better than, say, just a professor who had you for one class. That person might be able to look and see what grade you got in the class, but you'd want somebody who perhaps you've gone to office hours multiple times or have talked with that person extensively about what your long-term goals are. In terms of specifically how to approach them, sending an email is great. Again, you don't want it to be a tremendously long email, but you can email them and let them know, I'm looking into a number of summer research opportunities, and I was wondering if you would be able to write a strong letter of recommendation for me. You want to give them the timeline, give them a sense of when the letters would be due, and give them as much information as possible to help them write a strong letter. So typically students email somebody and initially ask for whether or not the person would be willing to write a letter, and provide enough information that the person can kind of make an informed choice of, oh yes, given the timeline that would work with my schedule, or oh, I'm sorry, it wouldn't work. And then once they've agreed to do that, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to write you a strong letter. So if you have a CV or a resume, you can send that along, send them something, maybe just a paragraph talking about why you're interested in doing research in the summer, how that fits with your long-term goals, what you're excited about, what you're passionate about, so that they can kind of put what they know about you in context with how the summer program will benefit you and how you would be a good fit for the summer program. I often, when people ask me for a letter of recommendation, ask them to provide a spreadsheet that shows all of the different opportunities for which they're applying with the deadlines and anything special about that opportunity. So again, you want to provide the letter writer with as much information as possible so that their job of writing you a strong letter will be easy. Keep in mind that for faculty members and other people, this is part of what they expect. I know, again, it can feel intimidating to ask for a letter, but part of what they do is mentor students and provide students with guidance towards opportunities and support them as they are applying to these opportunities. So it is part of their job. Don't feel too hesitant to ask. I would be more than happy to meet with anyone if they have questions. I think just kind of the other thing is keep in mind that we'll have these resources available on our website soon, but you can even just Google and find a number of resources available now that can give you some additional guidance. The one final thing is, as you probably gathered from the presentation, with the different programs that we're talking about, what's needed is varies a little bit. So for example, with UC Scholars, the letter of recommendation can come from anyone. It does not need to be with the person that you'll be working with this summer. It could come from somebody at another institution. So transfer students often have somebody from their community college write a letter rather than a UC San Diego professor that they really don't know that well. So again, for UC Scholars and Genentech, you don't need to have it be from the person with whom you'll be working. For some of the other programs like TRELS and URS, the letter or the statement of support needs to come from the person with whom you'll be working. So that's a very different type of thing. So just kind of make sure that you've looked at the opportunities and that the person that you're getting the support you need from the type of people that you need in terms of whether it needs to be the person you'll be working with or not. Do any of the other panelists have anything to add to my overly lengthy reply?
Can I add something really quick? I have often found it helpful, and it goes back to it's always best to get started as early as possible. I sometimes even share my personal statement or my research statement with my letter writer. And even though it's long and they might not read everything, it would really help them. And again, also making it as easy as possible for them to know why you're interested in applying or why you're interested in a specific program. So what I like to do is once they say yes, I attach my personal statement, my research statement, my CV. If the letter requires anything specific, kind of highlight this must be addressed in the letter, and just really make it as easy as possible for them because they're writing a lot for many students also.
Lots of really great advice. Thanks, both of you. There's a question for the UC Scholars and Genentech Scholars. Are projects conducted individually or in groups?
Typically, they are conducted individually in that we want each student, each participant should have some ownership over the project. It shouldn't be something where you're just kind of a cog in the wheel and you're not really having independent ownership of the project. Having said that, a lot of times students are working on a project that's part of a larger project that the entire research group is working on. So it may be something that has been going on in this research group for years and they're kind of doing the next phase of it. So it's not always the case that a student in UC Scholars or Genentech would have their own project that's completely separate from anything else going on in the research group. Again, you might be part of a larger project, but even in those instances, so as part of a larger project, you might be working with fellow students and even perhaps with somebody else in one of the summer research programs. But even in those cases, we want it to be something where you are making your own unique contribution. So for example, at the conference, you can say, this is what I did. This was my part of it.
Great answer. Thank you. So there's a question, are there opportunities for which first years are eligible to apply? Tyler?
Yes, absolutely. So we want to reiterate, that we have certain opportunities that are only open for students with either junior or senior standing. And again, that's based on credits accumulated, not necessarily a year of study. but we also have plenty of opportunities available for first-year students. So certainly the TRELS program is a program we encourage first-year students to apply for, as well as the Undergraduate Research Scholarships program. So just keep in mind that even if you're new to UC San Diego, that we're really enthusiastic and we hope to see your application in the pool.
Great. Do I need certain educational prerequisites to be an effective researcher? Anybody like to take that?
I can take this one too. So I think it's important to, again, we want to emphasize that these opportunities are for everybody. So don't eliminate yourself from consideration because maybe you think that you haven't taken a certain level of advanced course in your field of study. In many cases, what you'll have are really wonderful transferable skills and knowledge that come from other courses that you've taken that you might not think are applicable to your field of study, but actually have prepared you with really wonderful critical thinking and analytical skills, with certain kinds of computational knowledge, communication, speaking, writing, thinking, all these things that factor into what makes a really wonderful scholar, and all of you have that within you. So I think it's important to frame it as, you'll always have more growth and things to pursue, but not to eliminate yourself from consideration because you feel as though you haven't taken advanced coursework in a certain field. Now, that being said, it is always worth having conversations with a potential mentor about whether they would recommend maybe there's a methods class in the field that will give you really wonderful familiarity with a set of programming software or a set of skills or other sorts of things that will really serve you on your journey in pursuing this knowledge. But just keeping in mind that in most cases, you already have so many of the skills that are required. And it's important to think about where those skills derive from, and they might not derive from the places that you think they need to be in terms of a specific course or something along those lines. So certainly, we encourage you to have a meaningful conversation. It's also a great topic if you're not sure what else to discuss in office hours meeting with the mentor. Maybe ask them, looking ahead, next academic year or for the spring quarter, is there a certain course that you would recommend that would be really helpful for me? So it's always worth thinking ahead and planning your coursework, sort of a couple quarters in advance if possible, but not to eliminate yourself just because you say that you haven't taken a certain sort of subject. So just keep that in mind.
All right, I'm going to take a
Do
quick.
that really quick. Also wanted to add that some of the research programs are actually to encourage students that may have started a bit late or come from backgrounds where they may not have gotten access to opportunities in high school, for example. And I do want to put a plug in for the Colors of the Brain one, where we are actually giving preference to students that have never ever done research before, because we really want to help students get like their first foot in the door. And then once you have that, again, it's very important to have an honest conversation with your mentors about what you don't know, but what you want to know. And then they will help develop a plan with you so that you can develop those skills during the summer. And I think that's a lot more valuable than coming in and already knowing everything. Then you don't really gain as much from the experience.
Thanks, Maribel and Tyler. I wanted to take a quick detour, if we can switch over to the last slide real quick, because we have a few upcoming workshops in connection with the Writing Hub, and we wanted to share that with you so that you do know we have resources for you. If you're interested in working on your personal statements, there is one this Friday, January 22nd from 2 to 3:30 to work on personal statements for UC Scholars, Genentech Scholars, or the Undergraduate Research Scholarship Program. There is one next Wednesday to work on research proposals with Undergraduate Research Scholarship Program. That's from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And then there's another one on February 9th from 4 to 5:30 to work on the Colors of the Brain, Kavli Institute of the Brain and Mind Scholars Program applications. So certainly keep these in mind. You'll get a lot of practice just putting together some of the ideas that you want to work into your essays and your proposals. And I think that it would be a great opportunity for you all to consider. So please keep in mind that the Writing Hub is doing this. We will also be posting this on our social media. It will be in our newsletter. So keep an eye out there if you haven't gotten a chance to grab it from here. And if you need to leave, that will be another place to find it. And then back to the Q&A, if that's okay. I've gotten a couple questions about who is a good person to write a letter of recommendation, and actually a very specific question: would my recommendation letter be stronger if I ask a professor to write it versus a TA? I feel like that my TA knows me better and is easier to approach.
I think that's a very tough issue because typically letters from faculty members, quite frankly, are given a little bit more weight because faculty members have worked with more students over a greater period of time. So when a faculty member says, this student is one of the best students I've ever worked with, that's based on a greater number of students than if a TA says the same thing. So again, often letters from faculty do receive more weight to them. On the other hand, as the question pointed out, a lot of times TAs are the ones who know you best. So one thing that might be possible would be to talk to the TA and ask if the TA could work with the professor for the class and co-author a letter. The TA could either provide the professor with a lot of information that the professor could use in the letter, or the TA and the professor could write the letter together and then both sign it. And that way you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get information from the person who really knows you the best and can offer specific concrete examples of all of your wonderful qualities. And you get the context that's afforded by having the faculty member endorse the letter as well.
Thank you for that. There was a question about how do I conduct research remotely. I think we did address that pretty well earlier, but wanted to mention that. There was a question about, can I take summer classes, whether it's 199 credit or other summer session courses, or can I even work while participating in these programs? I think we did say that classes and work is not allowable in any of the summer research programs. For 199 credit, I wanted to clarify that some of the programs do offer this, and this is paid for by the programs. But you have to check to make sure the specific program that you're applying to does offer that. The ones off the top of my head that do that are the McNair Scholars Program, the Genentech Scholars Program, the UC Scholars Program. Are there other ones that I'm missing? I think that sounds about right. So those are the ones that do offer 199 credits through the program. You do not pay for this out of your own pockets. And that's the only exception to taking summer classes or courses. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to take courses or work while participating in any one of these programs. I think we've kind of covered most of these different questions. Are there any additional questions from the audience? Oh, I see Isaac has a question.
Yeah, I have one more question. I remember Ms. Kirsten was talking about how the Genentech and UC Scholars research was last summer. I think it was held online, and I'm not sure what's going to happen this summer, but it's most probably going to be online too, unless it's hybrid or fully in person. And I know there's housing provided for if it's in person, but if it's online, do you think we'll be required to stay in the UCSD housing, or is it fine if we, like, I suppose, go back home and work from home?
So one of the things that will be most important in determining where you need to be is what you need to what your mentor says, essentially. So if it's something where you're not able to come on campus because of COVID concerns, then you're not able to come on campus, and you should be able to do it the whole experience remotely, whether you're in San Diego or elsewhere. If it is something where there's the possibility of being on campus, you would want to make sure that you're talking with your mentor about that so that you and your mentor are on the same page. But this past summer, we did have some students who were in the program and who did the program remotely from elsewhere. I think that kind of gets at the question that you have. And let's say that it is an in-person experience, you would not be required to live in on-campus housing. We do provide it, and it's great because it's easier to be on campus and to access all the things that you need. But we know that for a variety of reasons, students might not want to be on campus. And that's why we also offer the housing allocation, which is money intended to offset the cost of living off campus if you choose not to be in the on-campus housing.
Great, I appreciate the answers.
As a side note, we had the opposite, where a student was doing her research remotely, but she wanted to live on campus. And so that is also a possibility. You do have the option pretty much for any of the programs to look into on-campus housing. So certainly look into that, let us know what your situation is, and we'll communicate with you as the applications go through. But certainly feel free to ask questions along the way. It is 11:01. Oh, there's another question. Nikita?
Yeah, hi. Just real quick, if the program goes really well and there's an opportunity to continue this even after the summer, right?
Yes, many of the students do continue their research with their mentors, and it can be a formalized thing where they're part of a program. They can also do it as a volunteer basis. Some faculty do have funds, although it varies from lab to lab or research group to research group, whether they can support you. But there's multiple ways for students to participate and continue their research afterwards. We hope that as being part of a research environment here through the summer research program, that you do continue your research even beyond the summer. It's just more of a initial taste for those that are new and a continuation for those that have already been doing research.
Okay, thank you.
And I have another question. For the speakers, I wanted to verify, are you all okay staying a few minutes to answer questions? Okay, looks good. Thanks. There's another question. For the programs for which we need to write a proposal, do we need an original research idea, or can we work on a project our mentor provides, such as a research or as a research assistant? For the URS programs, this is a negotiation that you work on with your mentor. You talk to them and see if you have an original idea, and they're willing to work with you on that. That can certainly work. I would say that for the vast majority of the times this is applicable, it's more often a social sciences or an arts and humanities type project. If you're more of a STEM area, more often you will be working on a project that your mentor is already working on. And it can vary. If you've already been working in that research lab for a good amount of time, you might be already kind of moving on to an independent project that is not related to one that is already ongoing in the research group. So it really does depend. I would say talk to your research mentor about it and see what possibilities there are. And Tyler, do you want to answer that for Charles?
Yeah, so I'll say it's very similar across many of our programs in terms of some students from certain fields might be working on these larger collaborative projects in a lab or a research group, and many students might be working more independently on a project that they have devised and proposed from its inception. But either way, most of our applications and programs do require you to express which particular piece of a project is your responsibility, especially if it's a larger collaborative project. So I think we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the info session, but it bears repeating that just to keep in mind, maybe you're working as part of a very large research group, and this is an ongoing multi-year longitudinal project that requires lots of collaboration and teamwork, which is wonderful. And so many times in that case, what we'd want you to be mindful of is what are the specific sets of tasks, of questions, of projects that you'll be sort of leading during the summer. So that's definitely, again, a conversation worth having with a mentor as you're crafting an application. So yeah, just either way, we always want to think about research, of course, as a collaborative and sort of cooperative process. But we also want to make sure that you're accountable to your specific things that you've been delegated. So just keeping in mind that balance.
Sorry, I've been speaking unmuted or muted. I wanted to officially close this and move to the last slide so you can see our contact information. Please, if you have additional questions, you can stick around and we are willing to answer those questions. But if you do want to reach out to any one of us, we are happy to answer your questions and help you out with the application process.